So there were a lot of questions heading into the 2019 season about how future Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers and young wonder kid head coach Matt LaFleur are going to get along. Were we going to see the dangers and evils of Aaron Rodgers and his ego expose themselves playing under LaFleur after all those years of playing under head coach Mike McCarthy? Or was LaFleur going to be the right breath of fresh air that Aaron Rodgers and, frankly, that team and locker room needed? Well, we kind of got our answer, didn't we? Because his team finally spent some money in free agency, bringing in Preston and Zadarius Smith, and that certainly paid off in a big, big way. They were able to capitalize on what I felt was a pretty soft schedule overall. Only played 4 teams that made the playoffs in 2020 or 2019, excuse me, including playing the Vikings twice. And we're able to capitalize on a relatively weak, depressed division with the Bears and the Lions in there, being able to go 6-0. But you look at this team, you're sitting there and saying, okay, you fired Mike McCarthy. You enjoyed a lot of success under him, but it was time for a change, and it certainly was. You have to look at the early returns under LaFleur, and you have to be encouraged, and you should, because he comes in like they did, and they end up getting a 2 seed and getting a bye in the first round of the playoffs. It's pretty good work if you can get it, that's for sure. Now, we ultimately know how the playoffs worked out, where they jumped out big on the Seahawks early and then had to squeak by and hold on and barely win to advance, to where a lot of Packers fans felt the inevitable coming. They had already gotten steamrolled by the 49ers during the regular season, saw no reason that was going to change come the NFC Championship game, and it certainly did not. That is for sure. So, yet another time, was it the third time in the past 5-6 years, that the Packers have made it to the NFC Championship game and failed to advance to the Super Bowl. I'm just trying to think through my head. Yeah, 2014 season, Seattle, yep. Okay, 2016, the Atlanta Falcons, yep. And then this go around against the 49ers, yeah. So you look at that and you say part of the reason you made these changes is because you want to maximize the window of opportunity to potentially win a championship with Aaron Rodgers. You don't want Rodgers to be in that Favre category of great career Hall of Famer and 1 Super Bowl trophy, 1 Lombardi trophy. You go through that and you say that feels like a failure because it is so rare and so uncommon to find a Hall of Fame quarterback. All of the seasons of NFL football and all the teams and all the quarterbacks and all of this and all of that, still aren't a whole lot of guys that have actually been put into the Hall of Fame at that quarterback position. So when you do get one of those guys, and you especially are fortunate enough and do good enough by yourself to be able to get in a position where you have those guys back to back, where you basically don't have to worry about the quarterback position for 25 plus damn years, you would hope to have more than 2 Super Bowl trophies as a result. So on the one hand, the Packers have been largely the class of this division for a 2+ decade stretch. And they have been one of the best organizations in football for a 2+ decade stretch. The reality is, with all those great things that they have accomplished, there still is that, has to be, especially for Packers fans, and Packer fans that I know certainly would agree with this sentiment, that it feels like a tremendous disappointment. You feel like you should have 4 or 5 Lombardi trophies added that stretch of time, and you have 2. Don't want to be too ungrateful because you're still thankful for those championships, but Jesus Christ, Aaron Rodgers last won the Super Bowl with this team in the 2010 season. That was a decade ago now. Can't live on that forever. And you don't want to live on that forever, especially when you get a guy that's truly special. So a lot of Packers fans were hoping and assuming, rightfully so, going into the offseason, whether it be free agency or especially the draft, that this team was going to address their most obvious glaring gaping hole on that team, which was at the skill positions, the receiver position. This team needed speed. Team needed guys that could separate and get open and make big plays. Because, yes, you have Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams is a tremendous, wonderful wide receiver. But when you only have Devontae Adams, eventually he can only do but so much. And eventually you got to be able to go to other guys. And when those other guys can't get open, and when those other guys can't be threats down the field, and those other guys can't make big plays, it's going to minimize what you can get done with Devontae Adams, and more importantly, it's going to minimize what you're able to do with Aaron Rodgers. You look at Aaron Rodgers' numbers, you say, you balanced out the offense a little bit more in 2019 because you ran the ball more with Aaron Jones, and you did. You could say, well, he still threw for 4,000 yards, which he did. Would he have a 26-4 touchdown to interception ratio, which he did. But the big plays of the past weren't there. The big plays you used to get with Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb aren't there anymore. The fact that you had 2 guys on the outside that you could really do things with. You don't have that anymore. So you're expecting this team one way or another, especially in a wide receiver class that was as deep and as loaded as it was in 2020's draft, that they would come out with one or two guys that potentially have an impact, potentially make a difference. The DK Metcalf type of guys, the A.J. Brown type of guys. And he didn't do that, which is puzzling and mind-numbingly ridiculous to me as well. Now, where I might differ in departure a lot from Packers fans is the fact that this team took Jordan Love in the first round and traded up a few picks in order to get him. And certainly understandable the temptation of wanting to win now and wanting to maximize on the window of opportunity coming off of a 13-3 season, coming off of a first-round bye, coming off of another disappointing NFC Championship game loss. Like, you want to go for it and you want to go for it now. And admittedly, as you should, I do not disagree with that sentiment whatsoever. But if this organization felt like they had the opportunity to get their next Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, then they had to do that 100 out of 100 times. And if you don't think you would have, then you're a clown. Especially if you're a Packers fan, especially knowing the history of the organization. And even when you look at the last two times they did acquire a franchise quarterback. When they traded for Favre before the 92 season, what did Wolf give up to get him? A first-round pick to the Falcons for a guy that the Falcons barely used? That they had taken in the second round the year before? When you already had Mikowski in the fold? Like, who does that? Ron Wolf did, and the Packers ended up going to back-to-back Super Bowls in the middle of the decade. Favre won 3 straight MVPs. Then you get to the 2005 draft. Favre still got potentially a few more years left under him, even with the incessant retirement talk. And you're thinking, well, you might want to help out your Hall of Fame quarterback while you still got him. They took Aaron Rodgers at pick 24? Yeah, you didn't see the field for 3 years, but I promise you, if you're a Packers fan, you don't regret that choice, do you? Do you? Exactly. So while you might not think that Jordan Love is that type of guy, while you might not think it was the right choice and the right investment at this particular moment in time, I could certainly understand both of those sentiments. Two things I could say is, one, look at your organization's history over the past almost 30 years and understand that sometimes it's more important to look at the bigger picture. Number two is, if there's an organization that deserves a little bit of the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the quarterback position, it is the Green Bay Packers. If it was the Chicago Bears that did something like this, well, they would never have had an Aaron Rodgers type to begin with, so what the fuck am I even talking about? They've earned a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Where I give even more grief to them is, if you're going to do that with Jordan Love in the first round, then you can't turn around in round 2 and take an A.J. Dillon. And then in round 3, take a Josiah DeGara, where you don't even know initially if he's a fullback or H-back or a tight end type of guy. Like, that's where I think it got inexcusable. That's where I think it got stupid. Because even if you look at A.J. Dillon, you say, okay, there's a Derrick Henry type of back. A 6-footer, close to 250 pounds. Like, this is a guy that can help impose some type of physical identity come playoffs. I can even potentially understand that. But it felt like they drafted him a whole round before they really necessarily had to. And as far as the fact that they went into this draft with one clear, obvious need this offseason, with one clear, obvious need, and still failed to address that at a time where they are paying Aaron Rodgers a shit ton of money to be the dude, and you don't do more to help him out immediately and help Devontae Adams out immediately, is truly questionable to me. So for Packer fans to be overall, in the larger scheme of things, pissed off about the way the draft went and the offseason went, I can't blame them, because they should be, because it was stupid. You still have a lot of reasons for optimism, though. You still have Aaron Rodgers. Yes, he's in his mid-30s, and, maybe his best football is truly behind him, but he's still a franchise-level, elite-level type of quarterback. Like, Aaron Rodgers is still that dude. You feel like if you have Aaron Rodgers, you have a chance to win the game. A lot of teams, believe me, wish they had mid-30s Aaron Rodgers as their starting quarterback. Believe me. And then you look at the defense. The free agent signings last year, Za'Darius and Preston Smith, like, that paid off so wonderfully. Those guys are such a dynamic, impressive duo coming off of the edge for the Packers. You got them back in the fold. Like, they made a difference and a real impact. It almost, if anything, validated what Packers fans have been talking about for years. Why the hell isn't the team that spends more on free agency? Well, when you look at the way they spent it there, like, if anything, it just further validates what you've been complaining about for years, because maybe you would have another Lombardi trophy if you had done that at different points in time, instead of following the old Ted Thompson kind of, we're going to keep it all in-house, man. And then you look at that running game. I think does help balance out the offense. Yeah, Aaron Jones. Now you're going to bring in, somebody like a AJ Dillon to be a complement there. So you've got multiple guys that you're talking about that could tote the rock, take some of the load off of Aaron Rodgers, balances off the offense, keeps the defense honest. You got to feel good about that, and especially if you look come playoff time, you're looking at the Packers. You're not just trying to look at regular season; you're trying to look at the playoffs too. Like being able to potentially approach with a 1-2 combination at running back is certainly appealing at that time of year. I think some of the reasons for concern is the lack of a help for an Aaron Rodgers, and frankly, I think an Aaron Rodgers that's in a little bit of a decline. And I don't mean that to be smirch Aaron Rodgers. I'm as big of an Aaron Rodgers nut hugger as anybody, which feels kind of weird being a Bears fan. But a guy beat your ass so many times over the years, it's hard not to respect him. Like you can hate him and respect him at the same time. But the lack of getting immediate help for him, I just cannot understand for the life of me. Like you only get but so many chances and opportunities to get to the big one and win the big one. Like the Packers had a chance to do that, and to go out there and not get a game breaker, to not get more help at wide receiver, not get more speed, not get more playmakers. I just can't fathom that for the life of me. I just can't. You look at that young secondary, some recent first-round picks, Jair Alexander, he's a really good player. I think Darnell Savage certainly flashed last year. Previous second-round pick like a Kenny, easy for me to say, damn, it's too early in the morning. Kevin King, like they have some young talent in that secondary. You brought in Adrian Amos last season. He's a solid kind of glue guy in the secondary, not a superstar by any means, but a solid guy nonetheless. But you look at that secondary and you say, this is a team that can be had through the air, especially at key moments in time. If the Smith brothers, one of them gets hurt, or one of them or both of them struggle a little bit in 2020, teams are able to adjust to them. Like how well is that secondary going to be able to hold up? And I just kind of look at the Packers in general based off of last year. Like, were they a little bit of smoke and mirrors? Like, I don't know about you. And admittedly, as a Bears fan, maybe it's easy for me to say this, because anytime I get a chance to hate on the Cheeseheads, I'm certainly going to take, even though you cannot say that I'm totally biased and unfair against them over the years. You can never say that about me. Don't you dare ever say that about me because you damn good and well know better. But the reality is, and I think Packer fans were agree last year, like it felt like a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like they were finding ways to win games, but you never really truly looked at them and thought, man, this is a team that can actually go to the Super Bowl and win it. Like, this is more of a team that can win a bunch of regular season games, get into the playoffs, and then you hope maybe they win a game. And that's exactly what they did. Like, they had a great regular season, but, you just look at them and you say, ugh. Like, for example, if the Bears had any type of level of competent quarterback play at all, the Bears probably beat the Packers twice. Takes that 13-3 down to 11-5. You get some other breaks along the way, getting to play Kansas City without having to face Patrick Mahomes. Like, there are moments in time where you can get kind of lucky. And good teams take advantage of the luck and fortune that is beset upon them. But I think the Packers are a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're the best team in this division. I expect them to win this division again this year because at the end of the day, I think they've got the best set of edge rushers in the league, in the division, I should say. And they certainly have the best quarterback in the division. That carries a lot of weight. Is where you could say, well, the Bears clearly have the worst quarterback situation out of the four teams, but the supporting cast around Trubisky and Foles might be better than what they have with the Lions around Stafford. So the fact is that Stafford is quite a bit better as a quarterback than Trubisky, so that makes quite a bit of difference. And then Cousins is certainly not, he's more in the Stafford type category, certainly is not in the Aaron Rodgers category. And while he has a good team around him, Rodgers has a good team around him, and just Rodgers is a lot better. So that's, to me, when I look at it, like this is the default pick, kind of the safe pick, and it certainly makes sense. I think this is kind of an 11-5 type of year for the Packers. I still expect them to win the NFC North. I just wonder, though, they get into the playoffs, unless they can find somebody that steps up and becomes that playmaker opposite of Devontae Adams, is it all going to be for naught? And yet another wasted year for Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers, the organization, their fan base. I certainly think it could be.